On February 1, 1959, deep in the Soviet Union's Ural Mountains, temperatures dropped to a lethal -30 degrees Celsius. Navigating this brutal terrain was a group led by a 23-year-old engineering student named Igor Dyatlov. This was a team of 9 highly trained ski trekkers on a highest category expedition. They knew the ice, they knew the risks, and they rarely made mistakes. Yet, when a search team finally reached their campsite 25 days later, they found the group's tent entirely abandoned. Inside lay their heavy jackets, their boots, and their untouched food rations. The heaviest winter gear had been left behind. And strangely, the thick canvas of the tent hadn't been torn by the wind. It had been violently sliced open from the inside. For 9 seasoned survivalists to intentionally destroy their shelter and flee into a sub-zero blizzard barefoot, whatever happened in the middle of the night had to be entirely overwhelming. Looking at the initial evidence, the hikers' flight reveals a strange contradiction. Footprints leading down the slope showed the group didn't scatter in a blind panic. They walked away together in a deliberate, orderly line. Nearly a mile and a half down the mountain, investigators found the first 2 bodies beneath a massive cedar tree. Both were dressed in nothing but their underwear, entirely unequipped for the bitter cold. Despite their severe exposure, they had actively tried to survive. Ash on the ground pointed to a makeshift fire, and the lower branches of the cedar tree were snapped off, suggesting they had climbed it to look out into the distance. A short distance away lay 3 more bodies, staggered in the snow. Their heads and torsos were oriented back up the slope, frozen in the act of desperately crawling toward the ruined tent. By building a fire and attempting a coordinated return, the hikers showed an organized reaction to an external pressure. This level of survival logic complicates the theory of a simple, panic-driven breakdown. The nature of the search changed 2 months later, when the final 4 bodies were excavated from a ravine buried deep beneath the snow. Autopsies revealed massive internal trauma, a fractured skull and multiple crushed ribs. Medical examiners compared the shear force to a high-speed car crash. Yet, despite bones snapping under immense pressure, victims had almost no external bruising or surface wounds. Even stranger, soft tissue was inexplicably missing. Several victims lacked their eyes, and one of the female hikers, Lyudmila Dubinina, was found with her tongue and eyes entirely absent. Standard hypothermia explains disorientation and paradoxical undressing, but it does not crush ribs. Investigators were left to reconcile these specific injuries and the missing tissue with the harsh conditions of the slope. To explain the crushing force, scientists frequently point to an avalanche. In fact, in 2020, Russian investigators officially declared a sudden slab avalanche as the most likely trigger for the incident. The physical evidence, however, immediately complicates this. Search parties found no debris field. The tent was largely protruding from the snow, and those orderly footprints leading away directly contradict the chaotic sweeping motion of an avalanche. Another natural theory points to the wind itself. The topography of the Ural Mountains can generate what scientists call infrasound, low-frequency sound waves that dip below human hearing, but trigger intense physiological panic, nausea, and dread. Infrasound offers a reason for the hikers to slash their tent in terror. But wind-induced anxiety cannot fracture a skull with the force of a car crash, nor does it account for the missing tissue found on the final victims. These natural theories remain a point of intense debate. While researchers use modern models to explain the mechanical force, the lack of debris and the hikers' orderly exit still leaves the timeline fractured. This gap in logic leads directly to the theory of a secret Soviet military weapons test gone wrong. An aerial detonation or shockwave from a secret explosive could theoretically exert massive internal pressure on a human body while leaving the skin completely intact. This theory gains traction due to one highly specific piece of physical evidence. Forensic analysts detected unexplained traces of radiation on several articles of the victim's clothing. Adding to the speculation, independent witnesses in the region, including a separate group of hikers miles away, reported seeing strange, glowing orange objects hovering in the night sky around the time of the deaths. But these threads remain speculative. The Soviet government consistently denied any military testing in the past that night, and decades of inquiries have failed to yield a single declassified document to prove otherwise. A concussive military weapon neatly answers the questions of the crushed ribs and the radiated clothing, but without a verifiable paper trail, the military hypothesis is trapped entirely in theory. By pure chance, there was actually a 10th member of the original expedition. He fell ill with joint pain early in the trek and had to turn back, making him the only survivor of a group that walked straight into oblivion. It has been nearly 7 decades since that freezing February night. Despite vast improvements in modern forensics and environmental science, no single explanation perfectly aligns with the physical evidence left on that mountain. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains infuriating because every piece of evidence seems to cancel out the next. A logical escape is ruined by illogical trauma. Natural elements are contradicted by unnatural radiation. The definitive truth behind the 9 deaths is likely buried permanently in the ice of the Ural Mountains. Was it a freak avalanche, a covered-up weapons test, or a threat we simply do not understand? Let us know what you think happened in the comments below.